Okay, so after my Fantastic Mr. Fox video, where I talked about it being my favorite movie, I wanted to talk about some of my other favorite movies that mean a lot to me, like Fantastic Mr. Fox. All of these I consider my favorites on account of their influence in my life and the appreciation I have for their creators. In no particular order, I'd highly recommend all of these movies, and I'm going to make my descriptions as spoiler-free as possible for people who haven't seen any of these so they can watch them. The Perks of Being a Wallflower is a really personal movie to me. The main character of Charlie is someone I've always related to because of his quiet personality and desire to be a writer. Typically, whenever I'm around large groups of people, I tend to stay to myself and not say anything, but when I'm with my closest friends like Charlie, I feel like my true self. Not to mention all the time that he spends writing letters. That's something I used to do fairly routinely. Also, like Charlie, I had a really similar experience with one of my college English professors who helped me become a better writer. Like Charlie's Mr. Anderson, my professor would always give me book recommendations and tell me how to become a better writer, even making me read my essays in front of the class. Aside from the character of Charlie, I really like Perks because of the original author, writer, and director, Stephen Chbosky. The book to film adaptation is done really well because it's the authentic version of what Chbosky had in mind. With only minor differences from the source material, it's really rare that a book to film adaptation is done right, and I think that The Perks of Being a Wallflower is the perfect example of what a book to film adaptation should look like. Overall, the plot and feel-good nature make this one of my favorite movies and is often a go-to whenever I don't know what to watch. I saw Pulp Fiction for the first time my freshman year of high school with my neighbor and older brother. The first time I watched it, I enjoyed it, but not nearly as much as I did upon the second or even third watch. Each time I watched Pulp Fiction, I noticed subtle things about the order of the scenes and the overall message of the film that I didn't know prior. Seeing the subtle changes at first is what prompted me to do more research and is what really sparked my interest in film analysis. I learned about Quentin Tarantino, different parts of screenwriting, and the amount of effort it takes in filmmaking because of Pulp Fiction. Aside from what I learned from Pulp Fiction, I had a lot of admiration for the way Tarantino put this story together. By having an A story and a B story and having them come together at certain points cohesively while at the same time being independent is something that made it really enjoyable to me. Lastly, I think the acting of Samuel L. Jackson and John Travolta in Pulp Fiction was tremendous and really went together well with Tarantino's dialogue, not to mention all the dramatic Tarantino-esque violence within Pulp Fiction that set the tone and makes scenes memorable. Inglourious Basterds, another movie done by Tarantino, is one of my favorites. I know I said in the beginning of this video that none of these movies would be in any particular order, but I enjoy Inglourious Basterds more than I do Pulp Fiction when it comes to Tarantino. The thing that really makes this movie stick out to me compared to other Tarantino movies is the use of different languages. When I watched Inglourious Basterds for the first time, I was pleasantly surprised by the different languages like German, French, English, and Italian. Having all the native languages really makes the setting seem more realistic and authentic rather than everyone speaking English in Nazi-occupied France. Additionally, I feel like the native languages plus the dialogue that Tarantino wrote build suspense really well. Overall, I really enjoy Inglourious Basterds because it's a different take on the war genre. Typically, whenever we think of war movies, we think of Saving Private Ryan or 1917, but Inglourious Basterds is a really original take on World War II that brings diversity to the world genre. Admittedly, I've only seen Midsommar recently, but in the middle of watching with one of my friends, I said I think this is going to be one of my favorite movies, and I was right. Ari Aster's follow-up to his 2018 film Hereditary has beautiful scenery, props, and symbolism layered all throughout the film. While watching, I really took notice to the framing of the shots and the subtle nods at things that happened earlier in the film. Aster continually uses mirrors in certain shots with multiple characters, which I really enjoyed because it's not normally done in film. Throughout the entire movie, it's really evident the amount of detail and thought that Aster put into all the clothing and symbols to match the historical context of the Midsummer celebration. Another thing I really enjoyed within the film is the color palettes and the vibrancy of the Swedish landscapes. The colors of the village where the Midsummer celebration takes place make everything seem a lot more happier than they are before all the graphic violence occurs later in the film. I think Ari Aster is on the verge of a very successful career in the industry, and I can't wait to see what he comes out with next. Initially, when I saw Whiplash for the first time, I was blown away by the dedication and determination by Miles Teller's character Andrew. As a trumpet player ever since I was 9 years old, I was familiar with the grueling difficulty of practicing and getting really frustrated by not getting a lick right after a lot of failed attempts. Unlike myself, however, my band director wasn't a pompous asshole like J.K. Simmons' Terrence Fletcher was in Whiplash. Although the portrayal of a jazz student's journey isn't fully accurate, and if Schaefer Conservatory was a real school, there's no way Terrence Fletcher would have a job as a director, I really admire Damien Chazelle's work as a writer and director. Damien Chazelle has spoken about always wanting to be a filmmaker and his desire to play drums simply being from the environment that he was in, which is something as a trumpet player for so long can heavily relate to. As much as I love playing the trumpet for years and have made so many friends while being in band, it wasn't something that I was truly passionate about. Furthermore, I think that Fletcher's philosophy of holding yourself to a higher standard and demanding greatness is something that everyone should embody in their daily lives. The Wolf of Wall Street is last, but definitely not least, on my list of favorite movies. I really love the story of Jordan Belfort, and I think it's interesting how the idea of a man's ideal life can come crashing down. I really enjoy the way Leonardo DiCaprio portrays the rise and fall of Jordan Belfort's life and the duo of DiCaprio and Jonah Hill. Whenever both of them are on screen, they never feel like forced friends, and the funny and awkward moments on screen make the audience laugh really, really well. Not only that, but throughout the entire movie, the audience can feel a genuine connection with these two characters, and whenever they reach their highs of their company, despite the deceptions and lies it took for them to get there, we can't help but feel happy for them and like we're a part of the journey. A big part of why I think the audience feels this way is because of director Martin Scorsese. The music used to accompany long takes throughout The Office and the cuts between characters during intimate moments are just the little things that make moments stand out throughout this entire film. Although the runtime of The Wolf of Wall Street is about 3 hours long, I think it's all worth it in the end and well worth the watch. That's going to be it for today's video. I really appreciate you guys watching, and I hope you give at least one of these movies a watch. Also, stay safe during quarantine. We don't know how long COVID-19 is going to be around or how many people it's going to affect, but just do us all a favor and stay home. It's just the responsible thing to do. Anyway, you guys take care. Bye.